Hey, my
on
name
East
is
Tennesseans and their achievements and stories of inspiration. This week on the Spotlight, Jeff Jarnigan, Program Director at B97.5. And here are your hosts for the Spotlight, Mikey Chavez and Zach Neely.
Hey, my name is Zach Neely. Welcome to the Spotlight. Today on the show, we have Program Director from B97.5, Jeff Jarnigan. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
That's good.
Zach, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me out here today.
Well, we appreciate you for coming. It's great.
It's in my line of work. You're happy that anybody wants you to show up anywhere. So
Yeah.
that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Jarnigan, what possessed you to get into radio?
You know, I ask myself that question on a regular basis. I went to Fulton High School and started there in fall of '74, and we had WKCS was there, and I originally had signed up. They had a full range of vocational classes, what was then called the vocational department, CTE now, but and I'd signed up for photography, and I had visions of taking photographs of women. And, well, I was 14. It is what it is. And I had one of my best friends at the time told me, said, you know, you're always in the office for talking and pulling pranks and doing stuff like they do on the radio and they get paid for it. You should do that. So he talked me into it, and I took the radio class at Fulton, and Lynn Davis was my first teacher. The first year I was there. Actually, first 2 years I was there. And then a gentleman who had been all over the country doing radio, Alan Johnson is his name, is Dr. Al Adams on the radio, took the class over my senior year. And really from that point forward, that's, for the most part, all I've ever done. So that was really what it was. I got talked into it by one of my best friends at the time. So when we have class reunions now, it's kind of a flipping a coin moment. Do I shake his hand or punch him in the nose? So
Yeah, that's interesting.
How long have you been on the radio?
my first job was actually in the building where I am now, but at the time it's 97.5.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it was WEZK, which was a beautiful music deal that played music of your life, and it was mostly instrumental.
Yeah.
But it was targeted at 50 plus, huge radio station at that time, and I worked one shift a week. I worked midnight to 8 a.m. Sunday mornings, and I would go in and you talked once an hour. You gave the legal ID. And
Okay.
once an hour, at about 10 seconds until the top of the hour, I would pop on and I would say, beautiful music in full stereo, Easy 97, WEZK FM, Knoxville.
Oh, that's cool.
That was my radio career for the better part of a year and a half. That's what I did. So. But I got really good at saying that,
Yeah.
and obviously it's ingrained in there. So.
Yeah, it's in the stone.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jarnigan, you're the program director for B97.5. What exactly is your duties?
Well, I am basically, if it comes out of the box, if you turn the radio on and you hear it, I'm responsible for it in some fashion. Even the commercial matter, if there's a problem with the quality of the sound or the content is a little edgier than what we want on our station, that falls under me to rectify that or fix it. I'm in charge of hiring the announcers, picking our contests that we do, choosing the music, the rotations, setting up music tests, interviewing listeners for focus groups and things that we do like that to make sure that what we're doing is on target. Basically, anything that affects the ratings of the station, I am responsible for. So it's narrow yet encompassing. So it's kind of a hard question to answer because, you know, there are some specifics, but on a day-to-day basis that could be broadened to be, you know, do we want to send the van here or here? I mean, so it's a lot of different things like that.
What all radio stations have you worked for in the past?
Well, my first job was at WEZK.
Mm-hmm.
I worked there, I guess it was about a year and a half, and then I went to WLIK in Newport, which is a small station up there, and I worked there about a year and a half, and that was top 40, so that was when I got to go on and be a screaming night jock and pulling pranks and doing all kinds of stuff. That was a lot of fun. Then I worked at WRJZ, started out part-time there. That was a big top 40 station here in Knoxville, and John Boy of John Boy and Billy, that's on our sister station, WIMZ, was the night jock then. And CP and Walker were the morning show, and there was J.J. Scott and Rick Kirk and Adele Arakawa, and there was a mountain of people there. I mean, that have gone on to be really big in radio. I'm not one of those people who did that, but that I worked there. And then let's see, after that, I went to WHHY in Montgomery, Alabama, and that was a lot like going back in time. That was early 80s. That was it was a brutal experience, and one of the reasons I'm not a huge Alabama fan now. Really has nothing to do with football. I like their football team. I just don't really much care for that area. And I left there, came back, and then I was at WOKI for about 5 years. I worked part-time for one shift. Then the next day they offered me middays, and I went from middays to afternoons to mornings in a period of about 5 months. And within another 2 months, I was the program director, and I stayed there for right at 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And then I went to U102 and did afternoons there for 10 years, and that was 102 here in town, and did 5 o'clock whistle and different stuff that I did over there that we started, and was there 10 years. Then I got hired to be the program director at B97.5 in 95. Stayed there until 2000. Then I went across town to be the operations manager for Journal Broadcast Group here in town, which is Star and Hot and that group. Stayed there for right at 2 years, and then I was hired to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to run 6 stations for Citadel Broadcasting, and stayed there right at 2 years, and then I received a call from B97.5 wanting to know if I'd be interested to come back and run it again. Yeah. And so it was coming home. It gave me an opportunity to move back, and so that's how I ended up back where I am.
Yeah, you said you pulled pranks. What kind of pranks did you pull?
Wow, we did a lot of stuff, April Fool's stuff and things like that. We went on April Fool's. We did telling people there was a poll booth on Pellissippi Parkway, and people just went nuts about that. One year we said that, what was it? Oh, Pride of the Southland. The UT band could not use Pride of the Southland anymore because there was a sausage company in Alabama that had it trademarked, and they couldn't use it, and people just went nuts about that.
Oh, I bet.
Well, it was that kind of stuff. I mean, nothing really that was, it was more tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff like that. One time, I know when I was in high school, when I was on this, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I was on A station, and Randy, who was my best friend and myself, we had a table set up in the mall, and we couldn't get a signal out to broadcast it on the air, so we ran mic cords up under a table and tacked them up under there and interviewed people for 4 hours. And, of course, it was never being recorded, never going anywhere. We were just entertaining ourselves, but getting the name of the station out, which was a lot of fun. So it's that kind of stuff. I mean, nothing of epic proportion, more just kind of fun stuff.
It's something I would do for sure. I mean, I can see myself doing it.
Hey, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
So you've been telling us about some of the radio stations that you've worked for and how you went to Fulton, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you got your start?
How I got my start? Well, I lived near. I grew up in North Knoxville, and I lived near WEZK or 97.5. And I had applied for a job at another station and didn't get that, and then I applied for this job at WEZK then, and they wanted me to read a piece of commercial copy. And the way it was written was kind of introspective. It was something along the lines of, I wonder what my wife is going to get me for Christmas, like that. And they said they had 60 people that read the piece of commercial for the job, but I was the only one that read it the way it was written.
Yeah.
Most of them read it as a statement rather than introspective, like they're thinking it to themselves. And they liked how that I interpreted the copy and all that, so that got me that job, and the rest of it just kind of took off from there. So
that's great.
What's the oddest thing that's happened to you when you've been on the air?
Wow. One time I can remember being on and lightning ran in on the board. I do remember that, and I'm standing there and smoke goes boiling out of it and flash of lights, and fortunately we had lockers and I had a change of clothes, so that worked out. But that would be the one that sticks out in my mind, I guess, the most. Yeah. I know one time I spent an entire weekend on top of the Pilot Food Mart on North Shore. It was on Labor Day weekend, and we were raising money for Jerry's kids. Mm-hmm. And I stayed up there all weekend, and it was, I think, the hottest summer on record until last year. And on that black tar roof, it was
how'd y'all get up on the roof?
About 200 degrees. Oh, they had a big ladder. And
okay.
I climbed up on there. And then they took the ladder away, so I'd have to jump 20 feet to get down. So I was up there all weekend.
Mr. Jarnigan, here at WKCS Byington Solway, we have a pretty great teacher, Mr. Wade. And I know that Mr. Wade used to work for you. And so we're just curious as to who is the most successful person that you've ever hired?
The most successful person I've ever hired. Wow. I have hired a lot of different people out of what was then the Fulton radio deal and now Knox County overall, since you have a station here. I've hired several people who have done very well, some who are still with the station, 18 years later. And even the time I left and came back, they were there the whole time. But I would say Chris, from where he started when I hired him, working part-time and doing what he did, and then Chris worked, I guess Chris did everything except program director, sales, and general manager in the building. He worked on air, he worked in continuity, which was processing commercial copy. Yeah. He did traffic work, he did on air, he produced the morning show. Chris, I would say of all the people I've hired, there's probably 4 or 5 that I would just say, these people really made because Chris was young. I don't know how, I may have been 16 when I hired him, somewhere around there. And I mean, we were, a huge radio station at that time too. Yeah. And, people were asking me going, this guy's 16 years old. Do you know what you're doing? And I just had a good feel. Chris walked into my office. I was sitting at my desk. Chris walked into my office, and I'd never met him. Yeah. I guess I had. I'd spoken to the radio class at Fulton, but I didn't retain who he was at the moment. And he walked into my office, and he goes, "My name's Chris Wade, and you're going to hire me." And my first question was, how the heck did you get up here on the 3rd floor anyway? And we wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't know I got in. Yeah. But we sat and talked, and Chris impressed me with his drive. He impressed me with his knowledge of our industry, and he impressed me with his desire to learn and improve. And, I mean, I think you guys are probably seeing that here when you see what he does. And I will tell you that Chris is one of the most genuinely compassionate, caring people that I know. And I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt, after working with him all the years I did, that he will make sure that when you leave this process here at WKCS and in the CTE program, that you are ready to be hired and that you know what you're doing. Yeah. And that's probably as good a thing as you can say about anybody who's in charge of making sure that the people that they're tutoring are ready when they leave. And I have an incredibly high level of confidence that will be true with Chris.
Have you ever had a bad job?
A bad job? I've had a good job that turned bad. Actually, right before, I guess it was, that I started, while I was part-time at WRJZ, I took a job to make money during the week because I only worked weekend shifts there. I took a job to was a collector for a small loan company, and I can't remember the name of it now, but it was on Broadway. And I would have to go out and knock on doors, and people who were behind on their loans of $2 and $3 a month. I mean, these were small loans for a refrigerator or something along that
Yeah.
line. And I would have to go out and collect from people who were behind. And I would, I hated that job. And, well, my problem is I'm a little soft-hearted for that. And I would knock on doors really around Fulton High School over in that general area. And it would be elderly couples who I would go in and they would be sitting on milk crates, or really the only thing they'd have in their home would be a refrigerator to keep milk and some food in. And what I found myself doing was being compassionate. I would make their payments to catch them up.
Oh, really?
And buy them time. Yeah, I was the worst collections person in the history of collections.
Oh.
I was awful. And I just hated that job. And one day I went in and the gentleman who was the manager, he pulled me into his office. He goes, "I don't think this is working out very well." And I said, "I don't believe I could possibly agree more with you." And he said, "I think we need to part company." And so I went back home and went to bed, and it's the best sleep I had in about the 2 months I worked there, I guess, because
I bet.
I was absolutely miserable doing that.
Yeah.
Mr. Jarnigan, you're very, very busy. You're a very busy man, you know. Can you tell us what you do in your spare time?
I watch my grandson a lot. That's been my latest thing. He stays at the house quite a bit, and he's 7 months old today, and he's awesome. And I do PA in Thompson Bowling Arena for men's basketball. I do that. I enjoy that. And I usually do PA in the stadium for the orange and white football game.
Yeah.
And I like to fish, like to play golf. You can tell by looking at me, I don't work out a lot. But I'm an outdoors person. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
If I want to get out and clear my head, I mean, I've got a big deck out back of the house, and I'll sit out there at the fire pit or something and just kind of relax. I mean, I'm off the air. I'm probably more laid back than people would think I am. I'm by nature, I tend to be shy, which nobody already believes, but it's true. So I kind of have to push myself to do what I do, but I love it, and so I do that. But I would say just to kick back and relax. I mean, I like that. I love UT football.
Definitely.
I really care about UT basketball now, obviously, and so I'd say that would probably be the key things that I would do. And occasionally I'll play cards. We have a group of us in the neighborhood that I bring over to my house, or we rotate around houses, and these guys come over, once every couple of months or something, and make sure that they leave me enough money to make my car payment that month, because they're not very good at cards. I'm hoping they all see this.
So would Chris Wade happen to be one of these?
Chris Wade comes, but only as an observer.
Yeah,
Chris is a videographer. He has never participated at any point.
what other activities were you involved in high school?
I was in plays. We had the Goldmaskers Club was the name of it, and we put on the Odd Couple, and I believe it was typecasting because I was Felix. Oscar. I was the slob, and we did that, and we did another one. Here Lies Jeremy Troy. Did that, and I was a guy who faked having a college degree. The role was he faked having a college degree to get a better job, and somebody finds out, and they're trying to hold it over his head, and that. But and I played baseball in high school, and really that's what I wanted to do when you grow up. I wanted to play baseball, but I figured out pretty early that I couldn't hit a curveball, wasn't very fast, and it just wasn't going to work out for me. So I needed to find something else to do.
Yeah, something in the spare time.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jarnigan, you work for a radio station, and I mean, you can't always assume that because you work for that radio station you like that type of music. But can we ask, what is your favorite type of music?
I think most people would answer that by saying that they have broad interest, that they have, I like a lot of different kinds of music. I like 70s rock. I like that a lot. But I like a lot of newer stuff. Maroon 5, I like them. It really is broad. I like some country music too. I mean, I'm Hank Jr. I like a lot. I think he's fun to listen to. We were on a baseball tournament in Nashville when I guess I was between my junior and senior year in high school. And we were down playing a summer league team. We were playing a tournament in Nashville, and we're sitting there, and this big, long limo pulls into the hotel where we're staying. We're all out on the balcony. And everybody's like, who is that? Who do you think that is? So I said, well, I'll go find out. And I go down and knock on the window on it, and the window rolls down and in the back, and there's this guy sitting back there. And I said, who the heck are you anyway? Mm-hmm. True story. And he said, true story. And he said, my name's David Allen Coe. And I said, really? I said, what do you do? I didn't know. I'm 16, 17 years old. And he said, I'm a country music singer. And I said, well, can you sing something? He said, sure. And he goes to the back, gets his guitar out, sits us out in the parking lot, and plays for about an hour.
That was cool.
And, he was awesome. I got to say, David Allen Coe was one of the nicest guys I ever met in the industry.
Seems like it.
He was a scream. He was funny.
Anybody that would sit out there and play for people and for like an hour.
Yeah, a bunch of teenagers, too.
I
mean, it was like, he was awesome. He was just as fun as he could be.
Yeah, seems like it.
Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give somebody like me or him taking a broadcasting class? What advice would you give them just starting out?
Well, the industry's changed a lot. When I first got in, you would have a all-night shift and all that, and a lot of that stuff's automated now. So it's a little harder to break in than it used to be. Mm-hmm. But there are still occasions, like in our building, even though some things are syndicated or satellite delivered or whatever, our building is never unmanned. There is always a body in that building. So it could very well be that your first job is being there to make sure all 4 of our properties are on the air, that everything's running on time, that the commercials aren't being missed, and all those kind of things. So I would say that your first job, whatever you can get to get in the door, is the one you want.
Yeah.
Because it can be daunting now to get it. Because before it's like, well, I can stay up all night, I'll do it.
That's what I'm saying.
And now it's a little different.
Yeah.
Mr. Jarnigan, on the radio you go by Jeff Jarnigan. Is there any other names that you ever thought of going by?
There's been other names that people wanted to call me, I can tell you.
Well,
and I've been called them too. I used in Montgomery, Alabama, I used J.J. Thomas on the air. But other than that, I've always used my real name, mainly because I've spent so much time here in Knoxville, and being my hometown, I was born at St. Mary's. I played ball, went to high school, I mean, all that stuff here. So it gave me some name recognition in town to use my real name. You know, the downside is you have to have an unlisted phone number that way. You have to, do a lot of things that if you used a pseudonym, you could use your real name in the phone book and friends who came into town could find you or whatever. Yeah. But I'm, that's really the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell us a little about Jeff the Family Man, if you don't mind.
Jeff the Family Man.
Jeff the Family Man.
Well, I don't know. How broad do you want that, or how specific do you want that? Just go?
Just go. Go for it.
I have a 32-year-old son, soon to be 33. Actually, in less than a week, he'll be 33. He has an 11-year-old daughter, so I have an 11-year-old granddaughter. I have an 18-year-old daughter. And today, my grandson that she's given me is 7 months old. And I've been married twice. I clearly am not good at that. There's something about me that just repels women, and I don't know what it is. But that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, I love my grandkids. I love my kids, and love doing stuff with them. And nothing has made me more proud. I mean, I've done stuff in radio, and there was a contest in the early 80s about Knoxville's favorite DJ, and I won that. Actually, Carnes helped me win that, quite frankly. Yeah. The deal was whichever school gave me the most votes, I would come and do a party for them.
Okay.
And I got 90% of the vote. I think I rigged that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was Carnes that won that, and I came and did their prom, actually, that year. And I don't remember where I was going now. I think I lost myself in there. but you still family? Is that where the
Yeah,
question
yeah,
was?
the family man.
But they all went here, and both my kids actually went to Carnes.
Okay.
And I still live in the Carnes area, and love it out here, and people are nice, and I couldn't ask for a better family than I have. My kids are awesome, and my grandkids are awesome, and you know, the real testament to a person's life, I don't believe, is what they accomplish at work or what they accomplish money-wise, or, you know, who dies with the most toys or any of that stuff. I really think the quality of the people that are left behind when you pass is probably the biggest statement you can make about the quality of the prior person's life.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable that what's going to come out of the backside of that, I'm going to be fine with.
Yeah.
Because both my kids, I'm very proud of.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Jeff, for being on the show today. We had a great time interviewing you. My name is Zach Neely,
And I'm Mikey Chavez.
and thanks for being on the spotlight.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I
No
appreciate it.
problem. It was good having you.
Tune in next week.
This has been The Spotlight, a production by the Byington Solway Broadcasting class. Special thanks to Jeff Jarnigan for being on The Spotlight. Also, thank you to today's hosts, Mikey Chavez from Carnes High School and Zach Neely from Powell High School. Behind the Scenes by Connor Byers from Powell High School, Devin Chamberlain from Carnes High School, and Dylan Lunsford, also from Carnes High School, and Chris Wade, teacher at Byington Solway Center. Join us next time on The Spotlight.